Clark didn't make the cut for the 12-player Team USA roster for the 2024 Paris Olympics. That is according to Selection Committee Chair Jen Rosati, who explained the decision came down to basketball criteria and not the fame and attention Clark would bring to the games this summer.
That's not what this conversation is about. This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this decision? It's stupid. And I'm going to tell you why it's stupid. I want all the ladies on this squad to know every single one of y'all are deserving of it. Caitlin Clark does not deserve a spot ahead of any of the players on this roster. Okay? If we're talking just basketball, you know we're not. You know we're not. Let's harken back to the Dream Team in 1992. Remember when Christian Laettner was on that squad? Forget the other pro players. Forget the pro players. Forget the pro players. That's a given. First time NBA players were allowed to participate. Don't put that damn screen up when I'm talking right now. I want to see Shanae and Andrea, okay? The point is this. Those rosters, right? Those players were on there. Do you know that Christian Laettner also was chosen ahead of Shaquille O'Neal and Alonzo Mourning? You know why? He was a two-time national champion. He was a Wooden Award winner. And he was white. And he had his own cachet. He brought it to the table. He was a big-time collegiate player who was white and busting people's you know what.
They said she wasn't ready. They said she was overhyped. They said she was a product of the moment, a marketing machine dressed up as a basketball player. They sat behind their desks, they wrote their columns, they posted their takes, and they told you with complete confidence that Caitlin Clark did not belong on the biggest stage in women's basketball. And then she showed up, and she reminded every single one of them exactly why they were wrong. Welcome back. If you are new here, I am Your Name. And on this channel, we don't do safe takes. Today, we're breaking down Caitlin Clark's Team USA debut in full. The performance, the politics, the critics, and what this moment means for the future of women's basketball. This one is going to be long. Grab your drink. Let's go.
The truth is, the moment I walked into that Team USA gym, I already knew what everyone was thinking about me. Nobody had to say it out loud. I had heard it for months. I wasn't ready. I didn't belong. I wasn't chosen when it mattered most. The Olympic roster came out, and my name wasn't on it. That moment stayed with me, not because it broke me, but because it showed me exactly where I stood, or at least where people thought I stood. So when I stepped onto that floor for my Team USA debut, I wasn't there to prove them wrong with words. I was there to let the game speak for me.
To understand conversations got drowned out by bad faith criticism. And that bad faith criticism is what makes what happened next so satisfying.
That's always how I know I'm in control. When everything feels calm, even when it's chaotic. When the noise fades, all I see are angles and opportunities. I wasn't even about the critics anymore. I wasn't thinking about the roster right? I was thinking about the next class. Because I just didn't like this wasn't the end of my process. This was the beginning of it. And the more I played, the more obvious it became. I wasn't trying to get into Team USA. Team USA was starting to but those things that wasn't one shot. It was the way the game started reacting.
Okay, let's talk about the actual basketball, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. From the opening possession, Caitlin Clark looked like she belonged. Not comfortable settling in belonged. Not give her time belonged. Straight up, immediately, unquestionably belonged. The floor spacing she provided was instant. Teams had to respect her range. That ridiculous, logo-pulling, crowd-rising range from the very first minute. And what does that do? It opens driving lanes. It pulls defenders away from the paint. It creates a gravitational effect that makes everyone around her better. The movement off ball, the reads in the pick and roll, the confidence in her shot selection, it was all there. Let's talk about the passing, because I think this is the most underrated part of Caitlin Clark's game, and it was on full display. The vision, the willingness to give up a good shot for a great shot for a teammate. That's not a rookie quality. That's a point guard who understands the game at a level that most players never reach. The no-look passes, the skip, passes across the court. The ability to see the play before it develops and put the ball exactly where it needs to be before the defense can react. Elite, full stop. And then, here is the shot making under pressure. The moments where the game slows down for everyone else and Caitlin Clark steps into the pocket, rises up and sends it home from distances that make coaches wince. Those moments happened multiple times in a Team USA jersey on an international stage against real competition. Was it a perfect debut? Number. Because perfect debuts don't exist. There were moments of adjustment. There were sequences where the speed of the game or the unfamiliar chemistry led to miscommunications, but that's basketball. What you are evaluating in a debut isn't perfection, it's impact. It's whether the player made her team better. It's whether the player showed she belongs. Caitlin Clark absolutely unambiguously made her team better. And she absolutely unambiguously showed she belongs. The stat line will tell part of the story, but the part that stats don't capture. The energy shift, the crowd response when she caught a pass beyond the arc, the way defenders had to make decisions they didn't want to make. That's where the real impact lives. And anyone who watched the game felt it.
Here's Clark. You bet! Absolutely ridiculous. Clark, can she answer? Of course. But then Clark. Yes. Clark hits the three. Too much space. Really too many people want to leave with that team this year. Deep play, Caitlin Clark. This team rallied twice in the Southland Conference tournament for wins, and that one dead on. Right on the money. You never get tired of seeing that. You better be careful. There might be another one coming right here. To the deep with this team. Welcome to the National Championship game. It's Paul Kansas.
One of the biggest questions heading into this debut, beyond Clark's individual performance, was whether she'd fit. Whether the veterans on the team would embrace her, whether there'd be friction, whether the narratives that had followed her throughout her young career would poison the well before she even got started. And let me tell you, watching how her teammates responded to her on that court was one of the most... These are professional athletes, elite competitors who have no interest in performing camaraderie that isn't real. When you see genuine celebration, when you see a veteran player running to embrace a teammate after a big shot, when you see the bench erupt in authentic joy, that tells you everything about what's actually happening in that locker room. And what we saw was real. It was earned. It was basketball. Here is the truth about team chemistry that people forget. Chemistry isn't built in press conferences or media availability sessions. It's built on the court. It's built in practice, in film sessions, in the grind of preparation. And when a player makes you better, when a player's presence creates opportunities for you that didn't exist before, you embrace that player. Because winning is the most powerful chemistry builder in the history of sport. Caitlin Clark made her teammates better, full stop, and they responded accordingly. Now I want to get into something that I think is essential to this conversation, and it's uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. There has been a double standard applied to Caitlin Clark that would not be tolerated for any other player in any other sport. Full stop. When a male rookie in any major league has a standout debut, when they make a big play, when they show their talent on the biggest stage, the narrative is automatic. Star is born. Future of the league. He belongs. The hype machine kicks in, and nobody questions whether the attention is deserved. But Caitlin Clark has had to prove herself at every single step. Every milestone, every record, every performance has been met with a counter-argument. She broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, but it's college. She packed arenas and drove historic television ratings, but it's marketing. She had a strong rookie season, but look at her struggles. She made Team USA, but does she deserve it? At some point, you have to ask, what does she have to do? What is the bar? Because every time she clears one, it gets raised. And that's not analysis. That's not basketball commentary. That's something else. And honest people should be willing to name it. Now, I am not saying every criticism of Clark is bad faith. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Legitimate basketball analysis is fair game. But the volume, the persistence, and the framing of so much of the criticism directed at this player has been something that deserves to be called out. And her debut, her performance on that Team USA court, was a direct, unambiguous eyes-on-the-court response to every single one of those critics. That's what made it so powerful. It wasn't just a good game. It was a statement. Let's zoom out. Because this moment is bigger than one debut, bigger than one player, bigger than one game. Caitlin Clark is a catalyst. And this Team USA debut is another chapter in a story that is fundamentally reshaping the landscape of women's basketball. And, honestly, women's sports as a whole. The numbers are not subtle. WNBA viewership records, arena attendance records, merchandise records, television deals, sponsorship conversations that didn't exist 5 years ago. Young girls showing up to games in Clark's jersey, not because their parents told them to, but because they chose her, because she represents something aspirational. Now take all of that cultural momentum, that undeniable evidence that women's basketball is having a mainstream moment unlike anything we've seen before, and put it on the international stage. Put it in a Team USA jersey. And watch what happens. What happens is that the global audience gets introduced, or reintroduced, to Caitlin Clark at the highest level. What happens is that the conversation about women's basketball expands beyond domestic leagues and into a worldwide dialogue. What happens is that young girls in countries all over the world watch this player and see something that makes them want to pick up a basketball. That's legacy. That's impact. And no amount of bad faith criticism can touch it. The future of women's basketball is bright, and Caitlin Clark's Team USA debut just made it a little brighter. So let's come back to where we started. They said she wasn't ready. She was ready. They said she was overhyped. She delivered. They said she didn't belong. She fit like she'd been there her entire career. The critics have had every opportunity to be right about Caitlin Clark. At every single stage of her career, they've constructed arguments for why she wasn't good enough, why she wasn't ready, why the moment was too big for her. And at every single stage, she has walked onto the court and answered. This Team USA debut is the loudest answer yet, because this wasn't a college court. This wasn't a regular season WNBA game. This was the biggest stage in women's basketball, and Caitlin Clark didn't just survive it, she owned it. The verdict is in, and it was delivered in the most Caitlin Clark way possible. Not with words, not with social media posts, not with any kind of noise, but with a basketball in her hands on a court, doing what she does, at a level that silences every argument, every single critic. Dead wrong. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe if you are new here, because we do this kind of deep breakdown every week. Drop a comment below. Did this debut change your opinion on Caitlin Clark? I want to read every single one. And I'll see you in the next one.